All right, let's dive right in. In this explainer, we're going to unpack a pretty unconventional and, let's be honest, complex theory about how our financial and legal systems really work, all based on our source material. Let's see what it has to say.
So, have you ever wondered why it seems like the house always wins? When it comes to big banks and court battles, why do so many people feel like they're playing a game where the rules are stacked against them? Well, the source material we're looking at claims to have the answer, and it's probably not what you think.
And this quote right here, this is the heart of the entire argument. The claim is that the whole problem starts because we're not looking at the transaction correctly. It's not a loan, it's an investment contract. And you're being held to a contract you didn't even know existed.
Okay, so the first big idea we need to wrap our heads around is that everything, and I mean everything, especially any interaction you have in a courtroom, is fundamentally about contract law.
The theory goes like this. Courts aren't just one thing. They have two sides, a public side that runs on commercial law and a private side that runs on common law. The moment you show up to argue your case, you unknowingly agree to play on their field, the commercial side. You've just consented to a contract and given them power over you.
And this is really the foundation of the whole argument. Every time you sign your name, boom, you've created a contract. The source claims that not understanding this simple fact that every signature, every court appearance is a contractual act is the #1 reason why people lose these fights.
All right, now that we've got the contract idea down, let's build on it. This next part is where things get really interesting because it's all about what that mortgage note you signed actually is.
So you get a mortgage, you sign what everyone calls a promissory note, right? Well, the argument here is that's not what it is at all. It's actually a security. And the key difference, the thing that flips the switch, is its maturity date.
So where does this idea come from? Well, the source points to a very specific rule it says is in Title 15 of the U.S. Code. The argument is that any note that matures in more than 9 months is legally defined as a security. And well, your typical 30-year mortgage definitely fits that bill.
And if your 30-year mortgage note is a security, that has huge implications. The source claims it gets bundled up and sold into a pooling and servicing agreement. And just like that, you've become an undisclosed third party to this massive contract you never even knew about.
Okay, so if all this is happening behind the scenes, there has to be a rule book, right? A hidden manual for how this all works? According to the source, there is one, and it's called the Uniform Commercial Code, or the UCC.
Now, before we get into the weeds, we need to know about this one key term from the UCC, holder in due course. Think of it as a legal shield. It means a party can take a note and enforce it, and they're completely protected from most disputes between the original signers.
Okay, so that's the textbook definition. But here's the twist. The source claims that in these situations, the banks are not holders in due course, not even close, because they take the note knowing full well that you, the borrower, could have claims and defenses against it.
And the reason why is all about which rules apply. Because the note is a security, it falls under Article 8 of the UCC. And the claim is that Article 8, the rules for securities, trumps Article 3, which is the rulebook for simple promissory notes. The bigger rules win.
So, if the system is stacked like this, what can you actually do about it? Well, the source says the solution is hiding in plain sight, inside the very same rulebook, the UCC. You just have to know where to look.
And this is the big move. The claim is you can't just be on the defense. To flip the script and go from being the debtor to the creditor, you have to go on the offense by filing a counterclaim.
So what does that look like? The first tool they point to is something called a claim and recoupment. Basically, it's a way of saying, hey, my claim against you comes from the very same deal you're suing me over. You're using the transaction itself as your weapon. Next up, you assert a proprietary interest. The thinking here is pretty wild. Your signature is what created this valuable financial thing in the first place, so you actually have an ownership stake in it and in all the money it generates.
And finally, tying it all back to the idea that your note is a security, there's the adverse claim. This is the formal move you make under Article 8 to officially challenge anyone else's right to hold, control, or profit from that security that you created.
Okay, stick with me, because this is where the theory takes a really surprising turn. It connects everything we've talked about to the tax system.
Yeah, you heard that right. The argument is that every bill you get, whether it's from the power company or a credit card company, isn't just a bill for services, it's actually a reflection of a tax that the company owes because they got a benefit by using your credit.
So if that's true, what do? Well, the source lays out a pretty specific 5-step playbook. You take the bill, you endorse it to the U.S. Treasury, you charge the company that sent it, you credit the value to an account tied to your social, and then you send the whole package off to the IRS.
And of course, it involves a bunch of tax forms. But according to the source, there's one key form that's like the secret ingredient people always miss: Form 8281. This is supposedly how you tell the government that you are the original issuer of the credit in the first place.
You know, it all sounds incredibly complicated, but the source wraps it up with this great analogy from The Wizard of Oz. The point is that the power to fix things isn't some far-off treasure you have to find. The remedy has been with you all along. You just have to know how to click your heels.
So, that's the theory in a nutshell. It's a lot to take in, for sure. It paints a picture of a financial world operating on a completely different set of rules than we're taught, leaving you with this one big question to chew on. Is it possible the whole system is just a set of contracts, governed by a rulebook that's been hiding in plain sight this whole time?